Cheers.
Hello and welcome back to SuperCoach Edge. Liam, my fellow SuperCoacher, how are things?
Things are good. Excited for today. Again, I've said this like the last every episode, but I'm excited for today's episode.
Yep,
because
especially.
team reveal. It's going to be a big surprise for both of us, I think. We haven't seen each other's side yet.
Yes, no, exactly right. We've actually revealed the content of this episode.
Oh,
although
sorry.
I must say though that of course the title kind of gives it away, doesn't it? Classic.
Should have run further down the run sheet before I started talking, shouldn't I?
Don't be silly. Don't be silly. It shows how excited we are that we just want to say it's the team reveal. So it is an exciting episode. We're always excited for our episodes, but especially this one because it is an absolute treat for both the eyes and the ears, but much easier to digest, I think, if you're using both faculties, as it were, as opposed to listening, just purely on the podcast. So we do encourage our listeners to jump across to YouTube for easier consumption.
Yes. But before we kick off, just a bit of a reminder that we've announced across our social channels as to who the winner of the SuperCoach Plus giveaway was as part of our YouTube subscriber competition. We have also replied to the winner's breakout contender comment underneath our episode, alerting them to their win. So if you haven't seen it already, you'll have probably seen our announcement across our socials, sorry. So a big congratulations to the winner.
Yep, absolutely. So it's always good fun doing a bit of a giveaway, giving back to the community. So thank you so much for getting involved. But we have said ad nauseum, this is the halfway point of our milestone. So we're always keen to do more giveaways and provide an even beefier competition if we're able to hit that 500 YouTube subscriber mark by round one. So continue subscribing if you haven't already, and let's smash that milestone. So thanks again already to those that have already got involved and supported us along the way.
Yes, and as always, you can keep up to date with all things SuperCoach on all of our channels. And if you are listening to this in podcast form, I'm going to run through the YouTube details, because you probably need to switch over just to get the full experience. As Damon said, this one's probably going to be a bit more of a visual episode, because you're going to want to be able to see what we're talking about as we go through each line. Or as we go through our side, basically. And on YouTube, you can find us at SuperCoach Edge, and don't forget to like and subscribe to get notifications about our content. And on Twitter, you'll find us at @SuperCoach_Edge, Damon at DamoJ88, myself at Liam Evans_95, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Search SuperCoach Edge, and yeah, we'll be there. And another big announcement, or not another big announcement, but just more housekeeping, I guess. We have kicked off our SuperCoach Edge group for 2023. So a big welcome to those who have already joined and are ready and raring to go to fight it out against Damon and myself. See who comes out on top. Hopefully it's one of us. Hopefully we at least feature at the pointy end this season. And we can maybe take out Arthur from Black on White's team record of, I don't know how many weeks he was at number one.
12 or
14 or something. It was massive. Let's see if we can get there. But if you want to join in the SuperCoach Edge Cup group, you can join with the code 249149.
Absolutely. Now, Liam, I can hear the sheer excitement in your voice.
Yes.
So I'm like Hodor up against the door, and you're trying to bang it down like, I just want to reveal my team. So you know what? Now's the time to do it. So let's delve into our respective teams that we've been agonizing over pretty much every hour on the hour, and changed it that much. So let's do it.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Yes. And here's my side. I've gone with the same team name for 2 years in a row, which is a bit weird for me. I normally try and change it up a little bit.
It's so good, though.
I might change it. If I think of something better before the start of the season, I might change it.
Let's throw it open to the to the listeners and viewers. If they've got any recommendations, Essendon themed.
It has to be Essendon themed, and it has to be a player pun. It has to be a player pun. That's my rule.
I saw a really good one, which I forgot to mention to you, which reminded me. Essendon themed was Netflix and Shield.
Oh, that's good. That is good. I like that one. I hadn't thought of that one. I've had Shield in my side before. She'll be right with the double pun with Shield and
very good.
2 meter Peter, which was I have to say I was quite proud of that one.
Yep.
But I'm open to suggestions. Best suggestion will win, and I'll aim my side that for the year. So hit me up. But let's jump in. How do we want to do this? Do we want to talk through each line specifically, maybe?
Yeah, go line by line. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's start with the defenders and on-field defenders. I have Tommy Stewart, Sam Doherty at this stage, Elliot Yeo, Josh Gota, Ginby. Sorry, I don't know whether your first name. Connor McKenna, rounding out the on-field options, and on the bench I have Darcy Wilmot and Corey Wagner from the Dockers. In terms of, I guess, structure-wise, pretty straightforward. Tom Stewart and Doherty as the two sort of main primos. I've got a mid-pricer with Yo, and then sort of rounding it out with some more expensive rookies on field. Now, this comes down to the fact that I think we've alluded to this, or we spoke about this in a past episode. I looked at the sort of the consistency of the top 8 defenders, and there tends to only be 2 or 3 per season that actually carry over from year to year as over the last 4 or 5 years. So what I've taken from that is, and you'll see soon with my mids, is that I've kind of stacked them there because that's where we're a little bit more sure of who's going to be, not more sure, but there's a little bit more chance that we're going to be correct with who stays in the top 10 or who will be a top 10 mid. And so I think that's where, to me, there's a lot of value, I think, with some of the rookies potentially at this stage. Obviously, we're still a little bit out from the season starting, so I'm assuming there's a little bit of value with the rookies in defense. That's it. Tom Stewart will stay on my side. I don't see him moving. And Sam Doherty, it's based on him getting mid minutes. Now, with Williams obviously suffering from an ACL injury, I'll want to see a bit more about what his role is going to look like. I did have him in there based off his mid time. So that is one primo that potentially changes. Yo, I mean, he's been going from strength to strength from what we've heard. I can't see him coming out. And then the rookies will change potentially, or that's
hard to say at this stage.
Yeah, that's it. And that goes across each line. Anyone that's sort of that 200K price down is it's probably not a lock in my side.
Yep.
Let's move on to the midfielders, I think, and I've gone a little bit heavy in the mids, probably more so than most years, with Hopper sitting at M6. Which feels a bit deep for me normally. Normally, I probably have my mid-price coming in around M5, so it's probably one stronger than normal. And I have got Clary Oliver. Oh, this is on field. Clary Oliver, Tuk Miller, Bontempelli, Jack Steele, Tom Green, Jacob Hopper, Will Ashcroft, and Will Phillips rounding out the fielded spots. And then on the bench, I have Johnson from Freo, Howes from Melbourne, and Chesser from West Coast. So I can't see my midfield changing other than probably the bench rookies, to be perfectly honest.
It's strong.
Oh yeah, Oliver Miller, tick. Bont, I think there's a lot of upside this year with his mid minutes. I think he'll spend more time in the midfield than what we've seen. But even if he doesn't, he still scores relatively well when he does go forward. So I'm not too concerned.
Points for breathing as well.
Him. Yeah, points for breathing. Yeah. Well, actually, no. This is the year he's not going to get the points for breathing because he's in my side, and we all know that whenever he comes into my side, he's done something to champion data, and they don't like him anymore.
You and I both.
Yeah.
We started him the COVID season, and he started. I think it was the first 3 rounds he had like 80 or 90 odd, and then traded him to, I think it was Harms potentially, or one of those players.
Yeah, I traded him.
Oh no, it was Viney.
Yeah.
It was Viney.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he went gangbusters and rode him as a bit of a sort of sub-primo cash cow, and then Bont went crazy. Why?
Yep.
Always the way.
Yep. Jack's, so moving on. So Bont, I think there's a bit of upside there. Jack Steele, I think there's a lot of value there, underpriced coming into this season. I just can't see him leaving my side. I think there's a lot of value there. I think he'll get back up. He's got that tackling role. I think it's hard to tell with what Ross Line wants St Kilda to look like, but I mean, as a floor to have a floor because of your tackling, that's going to be bread and butter for him. So I'm happy with him there. Tom Green at 534K in M5. I think he is breakout contender of the year. I think. And that's why he wasn't in my side at one stage because I did actually my mids have changed quite a bit. As I said, I think Bont was LDU originally, and then then LDU became Tom Green, and then Tom Green, I found some extra cash and I upgraded him to Bont. But then I've done some restructuring across the side, and now I've managed to squeeze Green in there. Hopper, I think mid-pricer. I think he'll be the maybe not the best mid-pricer, but one of the best mid-pricers this season at that price. So like a Yo and a Hopper, I think will be two of the best. I think they'll give us some good cash. I think they'll make the 150K relatively easily. Will Ashcroft, I think, will be the Dacos of 2023 or the Walsh of 2023 from his rookie season. Phillips, I think, is pretty well priced and we should get some good, from what we've heard so far this preseason, looks like he'll be getting some good time in the midfield. And then Johnson, Howes and Chesser, again, rookies. And probably Ashcroft is probably the only one that won't change. Phillips would change depending on what we find out about him as we get close to the season starting. And then the bench, again, I've got no, what's the right word? I've got no
reservations.
No reservations to trade them out. Yeah, exactly. Moving on to the rucks, probably the one that English again, and Cameron as my R1 and R2, Nick Madden as my R3. Now, we spoke about him in the last episode, so I won't touch too much on that. I won't touch too much on the Darcy Cameron pick, but I've got him there so I can see who comes up as the next best ruck, and can hopefully upgrade, a Philippou or a Sin up to a ruckman, and then chuck Cameron forward. English, there's no reservations. This one's rucks, I will say, might change before the season starts. Probably the only line that will. I'm not sold on, and I say I'm not sold on English. His injury history concerns me a little bit. And so I'm just trying to play it in my head. How do we go about him? And then Cameron, as we discussed in the last episode, go back and have a listen to our strategy talk around the Darcy Cameron R2 pick. But he'll end up as a forward. And then onto my forwards, Dunkley, Rosie, Taranto, McLean, Philippou, Sin on field, and then rounding out Van Rooyen and Owen Davey Jr. on the bench. Now, Owen Davey Jr. comes on the back of Guelphy, who's been playing as a forward. He's just been injured. He was injured during the preseason, done a calf, I think. So we'll have I don't think it might not affect him starting round one, but it just throws Davey a little bit more of a lifeline. But again, it's kind of just a placeholder with all those rookies. In terms of the primos in the forward line, Dunks probably comes as no surprise to anyone. Rosie, I think, is ready for a bit of a breakout as well.
Yep.
If he gets more mid minutes, I think he will probably, he'll be, big. He'll be a lock for F for a top six forward. Yep. Taranto, likewise, I think he's got some big upside to him. McLean, Philippou, and Sin, those three at this stage. Yeah. Sorry.
Seven deadly sins.
Yeah, seven deadly sins. Yep. Those guys, again, I reckon they're not. I'm not sold on them still.
There's question marks still.
Yeah, there's question marks on anyone that's, as I said, anyone under 200K except for Will Ashcroft. He's over 200K anyway. There's question marks on their spot in my side.
Yeah.
But that, I guess, rounds it out. That's probably the general structure. I can't see the structure changing too much. I've wanted to go a bit heavier in the mids, but it's not really compromising my cash gen, I don't think, across the rest of the side.
Yep, very nice. And and just notice as well, you've got off the back of last week's episode where we're talking about DPPs, you've got a bit of a swing there with obviously will change or could change, but Corey Wagner could be a potential swing with Chesser, and then Harms with is it Howes or I can't
Howes,
see
Howes is a forward. He can go into my mids. I've got my whole forward line.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning the other day. Yeah,
my whole forward line is mid forward, except for Van Rooyen. And then even in defense, I've got Gota, who's a mid forward, mid defender, Ginby, who's a mid defender as well. So there's quite a few swings around the field, which I think will be useful going forward.
Very nice. Well, the structure side of things, I think it's very, very similar to mine as I'm about to delve into my team. But are there any other comments you wanted to make, Liam?
No.
Probably could off the back of my team.
Yeah, maybe off the back of yours, we can have a bit of a chat. Yeah.
Bit of a compare the pair type scenario. So let's delve into my team. And I guess in terms, starting with the defense, very similar to yours, apart from a couple of differences with rookies. The main difference there in terms of structure. So I've gone with my two primos, a little bit of difference there, but Stewart, lock and load, I think. We all know how he plays when he's at GMHBO Stadium, but he's playing also early games at the MCG where he also scores well. So I think, and I'm always scrambling to try and get him in, I think this would be the first season where I'm starting with him. So I think might as well change it up. Got a bit of surety there with his scoring. We know his ceiling, so he is a lock. Jordan Dawson, didn't have him last year. I opted for Sinclair instead. But you had him, obviously, Liam, and I saw how well he scored. Apart from the fact, the only query with him is the fact that he could be tagged at various stages, which did happen towards the back end of last season. But for me, I think they're the standout too in terms of weighing up value. With output, I think, I'd love to have Sinclair, love to have Dockers, but like you mentioned with Dockers, there's a little bit of a question mark there off the back of Zach Williams' ACL. Then I've got Elliot Yeo, I think, as you alluded to, I think Yeo alongside Hopper, the two big standout mid-prices, I think that a lot of people should consider having in their teams. Main question mark, obvious there with Yeo is his durability, but I think he only has to play up to maybe round 10 or thereabouts, if that, considering his historical output can be around about 80, 90. If he can hit those heights, he can help make us around about 100 to 150K heading into the buys and then trade him out, which would be a great time to do. I'll do it. And then the main difference with my team to yours is in this D4 spot. And I've got Jack Bowes. I'm quite bullish with him. Comparing, I guess with his output over the previous few seasons when he was at the Suns, keeping in mind that he will be playing potentially a different role for the Cats, may spend some more time in the midfield. He did sparingly at the Suns and performed quite well, but I think just at that price point, he could be potentially classified as a mid-price that could have a very, very nice output and provide a bit of surety. Should be best 22, you'd think. So for me, he still could change, but provides a bit of surety there. As a bit of a playing cash cow, I'm viewing him as. And then I've got, Ginby. It's well documented how well he's going for the Eagles over the preseason so far. Bit of a higher end cash cow. I think he should stay in the side. There's a potential there for an early debut. Darcy Wilmot is one that I think even if he doesn't start in round one, I'm potentially happy to start in my team on the bench because he played across the finals for Brisbane, as we know. Should have a bit of assurance, maybe, to come into Brisbane side if he doesn't start in round one, just because of that price point there. Chesser, don't know if he's going to start round one, may change, but provides a bit of flexibility with the DPP there. And then Corey Wagner, he is injured at the moment for Freo. He is in their rehab group and may potentially be able to find or beat the clock and make a debut for round one for Freo. But all those, like you said, Liam, all those rookies could potentially change. But structurally, I've got the two primos, two mid-prices in Yeo and Bowes, and then the rest are rookies. So those last two spots on field are rookies for me. And I don't think that structure will change at all unless there's major injuries, but knock on wood, there isn't. Any comments before I move on?
No, I do like the Bowes pick. One that I would like to try and get in, just trying to weigh it up with others. But I'm also open to not starting him. Like I'm not too concerned personally with him not being my side. But yeah, otherwise I quite like what you've done.
Perfect. Let's move on to the midfield, and it's virtually the same as yours, Liam, which is given me a bit of positive assurance there that I'm maybe onto the right sort of thinking. And I think, we've obviously been molded by what we've gone through and spoken about in previous episodes as well. But no secret, Clary Oliver and Tuk the running man Miller, what they provide from week to week, first and foremost, the high ceiling scores, but also with that comes, outright VC and C options depending on when they play in any given round. So if they play early on and, Nick Madden, who will be using predominantly as our loophole captaincy option, if they play early on, you'd love to have a VC on one of these guys and really ride them home for a high score, as we did last season as well. So didn't start with Clary for the first time in a long while last year in my starting team, and it kind of hurt me a bit. Jumped on him as one of my first upgrades and was happy that I did. But I think this year, outside of him and Laird, I mean, you could probably juggle either player and justify having either of those players in. Laird, interestingly enough, I think he's only in around about 4% of teams because people are just, we know what we get with Clary. He's been a trusted midfielder across the journey. Laird, I think he kind of hit his ceiling last year, whereas I think Clary could potentially go to another level again, believe it or not, as funny as that is to say. But then, the running man took Miller, as we call him. He's underpriced, I think, at that value point. We saw what he scored in 2021 and prior to that even as well. I think there's potential that he underscored last season. So he should take his scoring and average up to another notch there. So they're lock and loaded. They're not going to change for me. And then Bont in that third spot there. We spoke about him when you touched on him in your team. And yeah, I think he should go to another level there without Dunkley in the side. More mid-time, which should elevate his scoring ceiling as well. Jack Steele, no secret there. We both love him. Provides a bit of assurance and high floor scoring there with his tackling prowess. Underpriced as well, very much like Took Miller, but even more so, given we know what he scored in 2021 in seasons prior to that also as well. Jacob Hopper, at this point here, historically, I try and lock in a bit of a mid-pricer or someone that could be on the cusp of a breakout. So Hopper, for me, I think everyone should have him in their side. Even if he does get injured, at least it's offset by the fact that everyone, or more than likely, everyone should have him in their team. So if that happens, c'est la vie, and trade him out. But I think he should make bulk cash. But he could potentially, if he stays fit, could be a Will Brodie of this year, just without the DPP. So could potentially be a top 8 to top 10 scoring midfield because he does have that pedigree at full flight when he was at the Giants. And this spot here at M6 could change. I'm kind of tossing it between a Dom Sheed or even like you have a Tom Green, who I'm very, very bullish on. But I think this specific spot at M6 is reserved for someone that either could be a playing cash cow like a Dom Sheed or someone like a Tom Green, who I think could elevate himself into potentially being a top 8 scoring midfielder. So if that's the case, it virtually means that you're saving yourself a trade if he is a top scoring midfielder. So I'm tossing it between Dom Sheed. He does afford me a little bit of extra cash in the bank if I go for Sheedy, but I don't know as to whether or not I would use it elsewhere potentially, or I could go into the season with it. Like you mentioned, could sort of assess as to who the good ruckmen are early on in the season, who's scoring well, who could set themselves apart from the pack. Could be Grundy, could be Gawn. So I could use that spare cash to upgrade another player to bring Gawn or Grundy in potentially, or I may use it just to start Tom Green. So I'm sort of weighing that up at this point in time. And then rounding it out at M7 and M8, Will Ashcroft, I think, will be locked into my team. He's been killing it so far in Brisbane's match sims they've done so far. Kicked multiple goals as well, pushed forward, which is always pleasing, and had bulk pill as well, which is always awesome. Will Phillips as well, you'd think he should be locked into their starting 22. Comes with that assurance, which at that price point at 158.3k is absolute gold. So really love him. And then on the bench there, Matt Johnson of Freo was touted to play early on last season, but did get injured and has been tearing up the track apparently in their match sims. So I really like the look of him, but obviously a watch there. Josh Sin as well for Port. See if he is selected in round 1, but that DPP flexibility also adds another feather in the cap there. And then moving on to Oscar Baker, who the Dogs picked up from Melbourne, mature age player. There is word that he could play along the wing there, sort of with the absence of Lockie Hunter now being at Melbourne. So there is all signs pointing that he could carve out a bit of a spot there. Comes down to how he performs over the preseason, but bit of a watch there. But any comments before I move on?
No, again, I think similar sort of structure. I think similar ideas going into 2023 as well.
Very nice. Moving on to the rucks, a little bit of a difference there, just in terms of you going for English. I've gone for Marshall. with that cash there in the bank, if I did go for Dom Sheed, I could upgrade him to Timmy English. Initially, I did have Marshall alongside English, but I found that it just tied up too much cash. And then I feel more confident with Marshall, like we've spoken about, as opposed to Tim English. So I did opt for Darcy Cameron, who I initially selected in the forward line, but then off the back of your insights into, the DPP, which we spoke about in the last episode as well, that flexibility of starting him in the ruck and then potentially swinging Darcy Cameron into the forward line and upgrading someone to, a Lysett even, or a Witts or a Gawn or a Grundy or whoever, that DPP flexibility there is nice. And then Nick Madden speaks for itself, captaincy loophole all year, hopefully. And then moving on to the forward line, sort of structure-wise, I've gone with the 2 primos, which I try and do every single year. 2 of the 6 spots I try and reserve for primos, and I think Josh Dunkley speaks for himself. Everyone should have him, start with him, tearing up the preseason so far. Connor Rosie, we saw what he produced when he was played as a full-time midfielder virtually for Port Adelaide. Should continue scoring well for them. Timmy Taranto, a lot has been spoken about him. He should play full-time midfield virtually for the first time of his career. At GWS, he was pushed forward at different stages, as you well know, Liam, when you traded him into your side in recent seasons and didn't produce and then went gangbusters. So I think that flexibility in his game as well. He still may do that for Richmond, but I think he should be playing full-time mid and fills a definite need for Richmond and should elevate his scoring average across the course of the season. So I really like the look of him. And then from there, I've tried to go for, as we spoke about in previous episodes, what do we call them? The
Steve Buscemi's.
Steve Buscemi's. So AKA players that are at virtually a higher rookie price point, but have been in the game for quite a while, provided a bit of assurance there in terms of best 22 players. McLean is still sort of up in the air, funnily enough. Everyone's got him, but I still want to see how he fits into the Bulldogs lineup. I think it was maybe 3-4 years ago when he was playing full-time mid for the Dogs, as we spoke about in the the forward episode. He does have that capacity to push upwards of a 90 plus average. So if he's able to do that, that'd be, a bit of a bonus. But even so, I think when he's played up forward, he's averaged around about that 60 to 65 average, which is all we need really to make 150K. So I'm happy enough to take a gamble on him. And then Ben King, we should know that, he's best 22, no doubt about it. Might be more of a slow burn, but hoping if I do start with him, that is, it still could change. But at that price point, higher price point, more of a slow burn, relying upon him having, games of where he kicks a bag of goals and scores 100 plus in his rolling 3-game average. So to really kickstart that cash generation. But yeah, confident that he should at the very least make 100K, but hoping to push that 150K mark depending on those games. If he has 2 games back to back that are really good, high scoring, that'll catapult his scoring and cash generation. So looking for that. Van Ruin for Melbourne. A lot spoken about him in the preseason, potentially taking over the role of Ben Brown at Melbourne and McDonald as well. So he's the next sort of bit of talent that's coming through the ranks at Melbourne and performed really well in the VFL for Melbourne last year. So could be a debutant in round 1. So really, really looking forward to him. And then we've got a higher price point, Philippou for the Saints, highly touted, obviously, and maybe played more up forward, as we've spoken about in the past. But as long as he can sort of keep punching out relatively consistent scores around about the 60-odd mark, similar to McLean, should make 100 to 150K, and a bit of flexibility there with that DPP midfield forward eligibility. And then I've got Drury from, and I saw Tim Mitchell on Twitter. He said that he's named his team Drury Judy, which I really like. I really love that. Really good. But another guy in recent weeks actually is performed well in their match sims for North Melbourne and really stood out. So if you can jump on anyone at that 102.4K mark, gee whiz, even better. But he comes with that DPP eligibility as well. But
love it.
Again, could change with all these guys. But I think that structure overall is what probably will be locked in. It just comes down to who's going to fill those spots. But all those primos probably should be locked in, but a few mid-prices there like a Dom Sheed, even a Jack Bowes may change. And then the rookies, of course, may change across the course.
Yep, love it. I like the structure. And similarly, like you've got those swings across the field as well, which will be useful and necessary, I think, as the season goes on.
Absolutely. Well, that's pretty much how we stand at the moment, Liam. So nice to see that we're going down a similar path pretty much overall, but in terms of structure as well, that gives me a bit of assurance. And we've obviously been paying close attention to what we've been saying on the podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, it's good to see a nice little bit of insight, but obviously will change heading into the match simulations or intra clubs and then the what are the practice games proper. So very nice to see some exposed form and really structure our sides off the back of that. But what about the next episode beyond this one, Liam?
Yeah, so we'll discuss some of the key takeaways from the match sims that are coming up and look at who impressed and who may have had a different role and consider what that means for SuperCoach and a bit more about than that, I think, just generally looking at SuperCoach roles from those the first pieces of exposed form that we'll get.
Very nice. And as always, if you're keen to join in the discussion, we encourage you to do so by commenting below this video if you're watching us on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your support means the absolute world. And also, we'd love to hear your thoughts on both of our teams as well, our structure-wise, but also players that we've chosen, guys that we're tossing up still to potentially bring into our team and rookies overall. So let us know your thoughts below. Alternatively, you can shoot us your comments and questions via...
Yes, on Twitter at @supercoach_edge, Damon at DamoJ88, myself at @LiamEvans_95, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. If you search SuperCoach Edge, that's where you'll find us.
Very nice. Well, Liam, until next week, I'll catch you and we'll catch the listeners and viewers same time and same place. We'll catch you then.
See you guys.